So this is the DC chapter of the Industrial Workers of the World. We're a labor union for all working people that was founded in 1905 in Chicago. And the IWW has always been distinguished within the labor movement for being unusually democratic. Everything's run by the workers from the bottom up, and for organizing workers that were thought to be unorganizable. So back in 1905, that meant black workers, that meant children, that meant women. Today it means sex workers, it means cycle messengers, it means folks in the service industry that the traditional labor movement has ignored. We're out here today though because a number of workers in Greece have taken over their factory that their bosses had walked away from. And we think that's a particularly inspirational example because Greece is facing pretty incredible austerity. There's austerity all over the world. Spain, Italy, Greece are the big Western European examples. But we're obviously facing austerity here in the United States. We call it the sequester, and we talk about these grand bargains. But in the end, it's throwing working people under the bus to pay for the misdeeds of the 1%. So we're out here first off to show the Greek government and the Troika, that is the IMF and the European Central Bank, that workers in America are paying attention to this. And if there's going to be state repression of these workers' movements, it's not going to pass by unnoticed. And then, since our main focus is organizing workers here in DC and in the United States, we're going to have a conference afterwards where people can meet with organizers. These young women over here have been involved in campaigns to organize their workplaces. The woman in the red glasses is part of a workplace that just won NLRB recognition. They're now a IWW shop. So basically, we want to show people this isn't some remote thing. In Greece, it's quite a movement, and that can seem quite foreign from people's everyday experience here. But this is something people can do. People can get organized in their workplaces, and they can improve conditions for themselves and their coworkers, and really working people as a whole.
Very good. Can you tell me a little bit more about the DC chapter of the IWW, International Workers of the World?
Yeah, Industrial Workers of the World.
Excuse me.
It's a very common mistake. We are an international union, but we're called the Industrial Workers because we organize industrially. So whereas the AFL-CIO organizes along trade lines, nurses may be in one union and then office workers in another union. We organize along industrial lines, that is to say, all the workers in a given workplace or industry are in the same union. They vote together, they try to win demands together. And we favor this form of organization because as we see it, the trade union model splits up the natural solidarity of working people such that the bosses can pit the various sectarian interests of groups against one another. We'll give the nurses a raise, but that will come at the expense of these office workers. It ends up with this tiered system, and by dividing people, the bosses ensure that they win. So anyway, but you were asking about the DC chapter. We're a fairly small group, mostly workers in the service industry and folks who are interested in organizing their workplaces or otherwise in helping the labor movement. We have about 20 core members and a lot of folks who come out to support us on things. Our main focus now is training people to organize their workplaces. We had a training 2 months ago where we had some workers who had already organized a workplace come and talk about that experience and talk about the sort of typical narrative that an organizing campaign follows.
So it's fair to say then the
IWW, the Wobblies.
The Wobblies. Y'all are striving to build a class-based movement.
I think that's a fair analysis. One thing that's always distinguished the IWW is a refusal of political or anti-political allegiances. So we're all about organizing workers. If people have views on, governmental change, that's fine, but that's not what we're about. We don't want to become tied to any particular political party or movement for change in the state. We want change in the workplace. But yeah, we do, as we see it, working people and those who employ working people have fundamentally antagonistic interests. Drink water and breathe air like your boss. You're in some ways very similar. You may have the same hobbies even. But at the end of the day, on an economic playing field, your interests can't be reconciled. Bosses want people to work more for less so they profit more, and we want to work less for community benefit and make more for it in the short term. The IWW's vision has always been economic democracy in the long term. We think workplaces should be run by the people who do the work in an egalitarian way. We're very open as to what forms that could take, but we don't see change coming from the top. A lot of people, when they think of serious economic reform, socialism, anarchism, these other isms, they may think of, a violent revolution in Russia 100 years ago. As we see it, revolutions from the top invariably turn into power structures from the top. If a real change in the way our economic lives operate is going to come about, it has to come about from the bottom. And the IWW has been through thick and thin, through several 100,000 members to 2,000 members. Been fighting for that for 105 years now.